the channel. My name is Crawford. This is Virginia's for Lowriders. We're back out here. We're working on the Mazda. We're trying to make some progress. We're trying to get this thing to where we can jump in it, fire it up, and drive it wherever we need to. If you've never been here before, everything about this truck has been recorded and documented, and it is on YouTube, and I made a playlist. That playlist has over 60 videos now, I believe. We go over everything. So if you've never been here before, please go check out all of that. And do all the normal YouTube-y things with the subscribing and likes and comments and whatnot. And we're just going to get into it this week. It's Sunday. Again, at least it's not Sunday afternoon this time. We are all day long to try and get something knocked out on this thing so we can actually make some progress and move forward with it. For those of you that have been here for a long time, you've seen me talk about for the last couple of videos about a giveaway. Again, there's a giveaway. We got some t-shirts, we got some tumblers, we got some stickers. I'm going to do multiple packs of giveaways. I will be uploading that video Monday. I have to upload it Monday because I just haven't had a chance to record that video. But it'll be uploaded with all the details on how to enter. It's completely free. And you get free stuff, and all you have to do is comment. It's simple as that. So I will give all the details in that video Monday, probably Monday night. We are about 40 subs away right now from hitting 3,000. Once we hit that 3,000 mark, that's when the giveaway ends, basically. We'll give it from Monday to probably Thursday or Friday for everybody to comment, to give them time to see it. Again, I'll go through all those details. But we're going to get back on the truck today. I got a couple things that I'd like to do. I don't want to run the clear tails as much as I enjoy the clear tail lights. I don't really think they fit the rest of the truck. So I have an idea for what I want to do with those. We need to get the cooling fan 100% operational on its own. So once that is done, I can tune the carburetor at some other time. I'd like to mess with the roll bar a little bit today. I'm not sure if we're going to get it 100%, but I'd like to at least get the angles correct to where I like everything, and maybe even get some stuff tack welded together and all of the rust stripped off of it to where we can get a better idea of what we got going on. But we're going to start with those three things and see where we get. Again, it's Sunday, and I keep doing this to myself, and I don't know. Just busy, blah, 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 whatever excuses I can come up with. The only excuse is tired and hot. Whenever I tell you all about the A.D.D stuff, I am not joking. It's been like an hour and a half. I got distracted outside with trash, and then the trash in the house, and that turned into picking up trash in here, moving some stuff with a skid steer. Yeah, an hour and a half went by. I do have a side quest. I need to make a bracket for my buddy Andy's tubing bender so that he can bend 3.5 inch or whatever it is square tubing in a round tubing bender. So I'm going to make that real quick. I found the tail lights. These are the OEM tail lights from this bed, from the truck that came out of, there was a woods truck basically. So they're kind of rough. I don't feel bad about doing what I'm going to do to them, which hopefully will look good. I've done this a lot. I used to do this a lot on my Hondas back in the day because I've never really cared for the amber or yellow or whatever colors that most of the things in the 90s came with. If you look at most cars now, they don't even have that. They usually have a colored bulb or a clear lens or just a red lens. So today, which another thing that's weird is I've done this so many times over the years, and this is probably the first time I've done it in like maybe 4 years. I went to each company's website around here for parts stores, and nobody carries this stuff in stock anymore. It's kind of a simple, cheap way of making tail lights that are old not look so old. It gives them a little bit better look. I've done the black stuff back in the day. Never really been a fan. It's really, really easy to mess up the black stuff, and you go from a little tiny bit of tinted tail light to I can't even see the tail light anymore, or the bulb shining through it at all. This stuff is much more forgiving, and it gives it again, like a more updated look. I've done it on probably 10 Hondas. I had a PT GT, which is a turbo PT Cruiser manual deal. I did it on that and it made the taillights look significantly better. Not saying you can make a PT Cruiser cool, but when they make turbo noises in their manual and they get down the road pretty quick, it's less not cool, I guess. But also, I had some pictures of some of the examples of this, and then we'll just dive into this. I have a lot of these things that are, these are pads that go on DA sanders. I use them for detailing. Those are a bunch of different grits. Like the one we're going to use today is probably 1,000 grit, which is enough to just scuff this. This stuff will stick to an unsanded taillight, but these taillights have some scuffs on them anyway, so they need to be sanded down. Here's some scratches all over them from them being beaten around in the woods. What we're going to do is put this on a DA with some water, scuff these down to where they're one uniform fogginess, kind of like this. And we got the professional paint booth set up over here, so we'll spray them and try to multitask here and do the normal A.D.D thing like I always talk about. So if you got a Mazda, these lenses, they come off really easily. It's actually multiple pieces here. And the first thing you want to do is throw it on the ground. So you got a separate ring, separate from this. So if you have a truck that's obviously been in the mud, you can pull these apart and clean them up. We're also going to paint these rings today because these are obviously pretty tarnished. This is the main guy that we're after here. I don't know if the GoPro picks up all the scratches that are in these things. They also sell these kits online, like remakes of these, pretty cheap. You can buy them with a complete headlight, tail light, turn signal in the front, marker lights and whatnot. So again, it's just a DA with a hook it pad, and these things are like foam. But this is 1,000 grit. This is just plain old water here. These things hold water. I like to use them for wet sanding orange peel out of paint because they absorb the water and you don't have to constantly keep adding water like you do with normal sandpaper, and they're a little bit more forgiving than normal sandpaper. What I'm going to do is take these freshly sanded pieces in the house and wash all of them with some Dawn or something and get all this grime and mud out of them before we go about painting them. Now we got this nice smooth frosty look, which is actually kind of cool. I wouldn't mind running something like that on a vehicle. It just doesn't have, I don't know, it still has reflectors, so it really doesn't matter. Cut these with a little wax and grease remover. Make sure we get all our grimy fingerprints off of them. We'll be ready to spray. You might be asking yourself, why is he going to paint over top of the reverse light? Isn't that going to affect something when it comes time to maybe get an inspection? Well, the answer is no, because antique tags in Virginia, so it's cool, and I don't think anybody's going to notice anyway. This stuff is, like I said, pretty forgiving compared to the black stuff, but you still want to take it slow. I'm going to do a light misting coat first before I do anything that's remotely heavy. Most of these are very, very light coats. Let it sit, flash off for a few minutes, and we'll come back. Kind of thinking 3 coats would be enough. They're already pretty red, but there's a little bit of hazing. I got a little bit of dust in there, but it'll be fine. Put that one on a little heavy. Try to get a little bit of the random dust in here to get covered. So now I'm going to try to not kick up any dust and sit in the corner for 15 minutes and let this set up. Don't look too bad. It looks a little different on camera. It's definitely darker in person. We'll see in a few minutes. Since our economy paint booth is taken up right now with the taillights, so I have to come over to our high-end downdraft paint booth here. While we're waiting for all that stuff to dry completely, it's time to finally get this fan operational. So the universal kit that I bought, which it's a Summit kit, y'all saw me install that months ago. It was cold outside still. I haven't finished the wiring on that yet. The thing with the wiring for that is I've been racking my brain on trying to figure out how to do this and hide the fact that it's wired, basically. All of the wiring at this point is hidden, and you can't see any of it in the engine bay at all. Everything is tucked, except for spark plug wires, and I still need to hide that guy, but all of the headlights and whatnot are wired. So I'm trying to keep the wiring to a minimum. These universal kits come with a temperature switch that turns the relay on, basically creating a ground. Those switches are usually meant for small block Ford, Chevys, Dodges, V8s in general. So with those, it's a very large fitting that fits in none of the ports on this engine, plus the fact that I shaved the intake kind of prematurely, which is my fault. I've been trying to come up with a way to put a temperature switch somewhere in the engine. I really didn't want to go with the one at the bottom of the radiator. The one that was on there originally was very brittle, and I didn't want to chance taking that out of the radiator and it breaking inside of there because the outside's already broken. So after scouring the internet and looking at tons and tons of things, I came up with this thing. It's a very small inline barb fitting. Cut a hose, slip the hoses on. Hopefully no clamps are required. I originally planned on tapping into the factory oil cooler system, which has really small hoses about this size, and then I got this in the mail and it's about 1.5 inches longer than I was expecting it to be, because it's really hard to tell because the descriptions on these things are terrible online. So looking at everything and trying to figure this out, I'm not really going to be able to hide this very well. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to have to cut into that main little loop hose here and just add it in line, rotate it down to where you can't really see it, and we're going to have to go with that. If it doesn't work out, those lines are like $6 and I'll figure out something else later. This will have a switch to where I can just turn it on and off, so if this thing takes a crap, I have a backup and I'm not really worried about it. So we're going to try to make it work all by itself first and then go from there. We're going to attempt to do this with as little coolant loss as possible, which probably isn't going to work. Thinking hopefully somewhere in here and it doesn't get kinked. Kind of have a feeling it's going to get kinked and look, oh, it's too big. Well, that sucks. That looks terrible. Well, I'm not happy about it. I end up having to use hose clamps, which is very hard to tell because the AN lines that are meant to go on the barb are kind of their own size. It's not exactly like a heater hose. And I really do not want to use hose clamps on this, but I really don't have a choice here. We're going to hide it as much as possible, and hopefully we can figure out something cooler in the future. It really doesn't look that bad, though. I know it's there, and y'all know it's there. And it kind of defeats the purpose of me hiding all of these things if I'm just going to go ahead and put one right out there in the front. Again, doesn't look terrible. I really wanted to put it on this guy, which it's hard to see, but that line goes up. It's like an S. And if I tried to put that fitting in between, it would straighten that out too much and it would not be able to connect back to the intake. So my buddy Andy came by, so I finished whipping this up real quick. Very, very simple. Just holds the steel in place. Again, this is a round die, but he's hoping I can bend this material around the outside of that die. I made it trailer hitch pin size. I just got to drill that out and I'll be done. Then we can get back to the truck. I got the fan just about wired up. I'm working on the wires that go from the engine into the cab. But we got to bounce around to help feed this want of getting something cool done. So these turned out pretty awesome. Nice uniform red. A little darker. Actually, maybe just by my hand. Maybe it's a little darker where the amber was, but it's not that much. So, I gotta assemble that. I think I'm gonna use the gaskets from these because they're in a lot better shape than the four-wheel drive ones. I probably could have actually used these lenses and just painted these red because there's a lot of little, you can't feel them, but there's a lot of little fractures in there. I don't know if it's from heat or what. Save the red ones for a future project. They'll probably end up on James's Mazda. It gives it a really different look. It almost looks like an Explorer taillight now. I like it. It's different. Completely changes it. Just weird because it's such a simple thing to do. I need to get it outside so I can really look at it. Alright, I gotta finish some wiring. It's getting late. That Andy thing took like over an hour of talking about it and executing it, so put me back behind a little bit. Just like yesterday. Yesterday was, there's a lot of people showing up at the same time. So Rodney showed up, James came by, Jared showed up, Justin came by, Greg came by, and then when we got back, Some of them left. Delonte came by. Andy came by. It was a long day of hanging out and doing nothing, but it was cool because there's a bunch of friends. It was more productive, I'd say, than just sitting on the couch doing absolutely nothing by myself. But I have everything is kind of temporary-ish right now, just to make sure it all works. Once it all works, then I'll go through and tie everything up into place. As of right now, I have everything is on a keyed source, and I'm just wiring the engine to in here to the gray wire on the fuse assembly, and then I have to add one wire to the Deutsch connector in the front, and it should turn the fan on. So wish me luck. It hasn't kicked on yet, but got thinking, you know, it sounds a lot cooler than trying to make the roll bar fit and weld and grind and all that whenever I have no time left at all. I think we'll just go for a cruise instead and see how this thing does now that we can turn the fan on and not have to worry about rushing back home. So let's put a few miles on this thing real quick. So it drives pretty well. I'm also floating about an inch off the ground, I feel. And I can make pretty decent turns without lifting it up. So that's good in my book. As long as I can turn, sorta, we'll be alright. I think I need just a little bit of a jet on the secondary, because it seems like it needs a little more fuel. But it's just get down the road pretty good. I believe the throw-up bearing is probably trash. It winds pretty bad whenever you get going pretty quick. But driving this thing around before I did the intake and all the other random things that I've done, I would say it's definitely got a little bit more pep to it than it did in its stock form. I actually haven't had the cooling fan on the entire time. It's been turned off, and we have not crept over a half at all. I don't think that temperature thing's working. I have the fan on the switch right now, which I'm perfectly okay with driving it like that. Starting to get a little color in the header. She's running pretty good. Smooth. I just turned down the idle just a little bit. Like I said, it's just running off that fan for now. Oh, we can see the taillights outside. I'm digging the taillights. Nice and glossy. Actually a very uniform red. Outside, the camera makes it look darker than they actually are. It's kind of weird. Our little tailpipe down there we did last week. I'm happy with it. You can actually hear that throw bearing whining. It resonates when the truck's all the way down. But we are below the halfway line with that little fan on. So that fan was plenty enough for what we needed. And we are able to float just barely raised. We are again floating. We're maybe an inch and a half off the ground, 2 inches tops, and it rolls great at this height. The offset of the wheels when it's down is a little off. I think it's a little too sunken in, but when it comes to stuff like this where I can float and steer, I am all about it. I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of wheel fitment for steering and floating at the same time. We're about 10 minutes from the house or so, and this is the height we were driving at. Do a little bit of nut and bolt check. It's a pretty good height. Up on the front just a little bit. Look under here and make sure there's nothing looks loose or anything crazy. I don't see any dripping or anything like that, or any bolts falling off, so I'll probably head home and call it a night. So we're on a main road now. I'm in 5th gear. I'm assuming doing 50-ish miles an hour, and it's doing pretty good. I don't know how well the stabilization of that camera is doing, but it seems like it's shaking on off a lot. I'm feeling pretty smooth. Like, there's no weird vibrations, no weird noises. The truck's at 2,200 RPM, something like that. It's doing pretty good. This is the first time I've driven it with the 3-link that we built from scratch. What feels like 100 years ago, basically. It's doing pretty good. This is much more enjoyable than trying to rush to get my roll bar done. We'll take care of that next week. But as I say all the time, I truly appreciate all the new subscribers and all the old subscribers. Don't forget, we're doing a giveaway right after this video. There'll be more details, and I'll see y'all next Sunday. New videos every single Sunday. Sorry this one was kind of a short one, but I got a track record of only doing these on Sundays for some reason, because I get too busy doing other stuff. But thanks again. See you next Sunday.